Coming to you from the all-new Live House in Hollywood, California.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Pensado's Place. It's great to see you. From Hamilton to Nas to Solange, our guest is a multi-genre badass. Plus, we've got a cool tour bus ShopTalk from country stud Lee Brice. But first, a little bit of information. A reminder that the SWEETWATER GearFest is now an online event. It takes place June 26th and 27th. You can still attend workshops and seminars, participate in hourly giveaways, get great deals on gear, all from the comfort of your home. For info and updates, go to sweetwater.com/GearFest or keep checking back with us at Pensado's Place. Week 2 of our Warm Wednesdays mic giveaway produced these lucky winners. Daniel Turner from New Orleans, he won the WA-84 small diaphragm condenser mic, and Ann Gautier from Louisville, Kentucky wins the WA-47 Junior FET black condenser mic. Ann, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I've spent a lot of time in Louisville. Don't hold it against me. But congratulations to you both. Now, for the rest of you, 2 more weeks for you to enter and win. 2 winners announced each week. They're announced on Wednesday, so hurry up. This is good all over the globe. All you have to do is be over 21 and enter at warm.audio.com/warm-Wednesdays. Go. And lastly, get your SPLICE 100 pack. Take advantage of this offer post haste. Go to the link below, enter the code Pensado101, and voila, you're in. As you know, SPLICE is a digital platform where creators connect and collaborate. You get access to sound, software, and even production tools at a really low cost. From SPLICE Sounds, millions of royalty-free samples, loops, sound effects, and presets. Low monthly pricing, like $7.99 low. Plus, a mobile app where you get whatever you need while on the go, and it's ready for you when you get back to the studio. There are cool artist packs from Murder Beats, Oliver, Dirty Radio, and a bunch more, even global original content, like the Senegal Sessions, Sounds from Iceland, Soul Surplus, and much more than that. And lastly, the SPLICE rent-to-own options. Very cool. You buy, you pay over time, and by the end, it's yours. Rent-to-own has over 20 great plugins like Serum, Isotopes Ozone, Arturio 5, plus Studio One workstation from PreSonus. And they've added RC20 and their first artist plugin, which is Cashmere Essentials. So there's a lot there for you, and you should take advantage of it, and it's free. The SPLICE Pack 100 free uses for a month by hitting the link below, using the promo code Pensado101. Hurry up, please. Make your music great. ASAP. And SPLICE, thanks from all of us for the SPLICE stimulus program for creators affected by COVID-19. That's good stuff. Now, do Dave and I a favor. Like, subscribe, and click notify. Sign up for our newsletter, or hit us on our socials at Dave Pensado, at Herb Trollick, or at Pensado's Place. And now here's a super cool Pensado ShopTalk featuring Lee Brice and his tour bus. Thanks, Warren.
Hey y'all, I'm Lee Brice, and this is my studio. Technically, it's my bus, but it's as much of a studio as it is a bus. So let me tell you about it.
Check this out, guys.
What keeps you up at night? What makes your heart beat wild? What weighs on your mind? Leaves you paralyzed? What keeps you up at night?
I guess it all really starts with why the studio is on the bus in the first place. You know, now I got 3 kids at home and a wife, and we're on the road so much that I realized over the years that to have a full studio out here, ears for everybody, at the same time can track a whole band in here at once. And the reason for it is because when I get home off the road, I can be a daddy. I can take those whole 3 days or 4 days that I'm home per week and spend all of it with them. Originally it was because I want to have a little something out here to record whenever I have songwriters out and we get some just like inspirational music kind of behind it, you know, a little kick drum or something off of a piano. And it, you know, it took us a while to figure out how to, you know, make it all work and make it all make sense. But now it's really nice because I get to come out here and we have songwriters out, and now we come home with finished products, demo done, in the moment too. My actual album, a lot of it is recorded right here on the bus. I don't do it any other way now.
My kids and what they learn from me. Will they take the good or take the bad? What keeps you up at night?
It's just really cool. You know, warm audio is something that we really dove into to be able to do what we do. And at first it was like, well, this stuff is, you know, it's a good bit monetarily cheaper than being able to buy, say, the grandfather of the same product. But in the end, we realized that the sound quality is, I can't tell a difference, you know. This stuff sounds so good, and it can be beat, you know, it's been beat around and it's on this bus rolling down the road, you know. So it's so nice to have this set up to where we can use it anytime we want to, and however we want to, all night long. After the show, we're wired up and fired up. So I mean, that's the story behind this. You know, it did start smaller, but now we have a full studio, ready to rock at any time, and we actually really appreciate warm audio because that's all we got in this rack, you know, and it all works awesome. So thank y'all, and so if you want to build a studio and a bus, let me know, because we figured out how to do it.
1, 2, 3. Don't know how you make me still feel like I'm 17, living in some kind of hope I never wake up dream. Finding your heart, seeing your smile, made it worth all my wrong turns and wasted miles.
So good.
Hey guys, I'm Cody. I'm lead engineer, mobile engineer. We got a studio here on the bus, and we record records on the road. But yeah, we've been building this studio. I've been with him for about 2.5 years. It started off real just kind of ragtag. We just had a computer in here with some gear, cables running everywhere. It was real messy, but we built it up over time and really just honed in on our studio. So yeah, let me show you guys around, show you what we do here. So we record, our interface is a universal audio. We use the Apollo 8, and that does great for us, but we also have these Burl converters. So this is a to D converter. We also use it to clock off of. And we use a lot of warm audio. I mean, all our gear is warm audio minus like the interface and the converters. So we use a WA73, and this is the one with the EQ on it. I mostly use the vocal through this and the bass. We'll plug in the bass as well. It sounds great on the bass. And this is actually normaled to the WA76 here, and we'll run the bass through the WA76. So I love the sound. I just love the attack on the 76. I mean, it sounds good on bass, real good. Then we have the Tone Beast, and the Tone Beast is so cool because it's so diverse. It's so diverse. You can really change the sound of it, and you can push it real hard. You know, you can really drive it, give it a cool distortion. Like, I love the Tone Beast. And mostly we put the acoustic guitar through this. We have these Cole Clark acoustics that just, they're meant to sound great plugged in. And so we'll run that through that, and that's normal to the WA2A, which I love on acoustic. But I also use the WA2A with vocals. But that's mostly what we do, and I'm able to patch anything to anything, and I'm actually able to patch my Pro Tools outputs into the gear and then, patch it back in. So if I want to run something in Pro Tools through it, I'm able to do that. And sometimes we'll do that to like a vocal bus to just give it a little more just kind of analog warmth if we feel like we need it.
Round and round and round, what you say we make it true. What you say we make it true.
And now enjoy our conversation with Grammy winner Mikaelin, mixed by BlueSpruce. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's great to have you.
It's great to virtually be here with you guys.
I know, man. We were talking before the show. You're in Manhattan. Actually, where you live is where one of the first people that were identified in New York with the virus. Bottom line, you're good, and people around you are good.
Yeah, everybody in the family is okay. We had unfortunately, a couple extended family members passed away, but which is tough. But we're rolling with it. My immediate family is good, and we're just trying to keep ourselves safe.
Good. I'm finding, and Dave and I have talked about this. The team have talked about this. It's almost a forced period of creativity. You can get to your tools and you can collaborate technically and so on and so forth. And in some cases, it's an outlet for creativity. Are you finding that in your space?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the calls haven't really slowed down too much. People are still hitting me up to mix. And so I do, I've been doing way more of my prep work at home on my laptop than I usually do, kind of setting up sessions, doing any editing I can, without being in the studio environment. And then I'll come down here. This is my home base, Lounge Studios in Midtown. And I'll come down here and do the mixing, the actual mixing. But I end up doing a lot of the pre-work at home now, which is kind of, it'll set me up for the future if I ever want to do, save a little time in the studio.
Yep, absolutely. Dave?
What do you find are the advantages and disadvantages of a home studio? And do you actually mix at your home studio, or there's no need?
I don't really do any mixing at home. It's really, the room. So that's the hardest part of doing anything at home is the room. And so if you don't have a treated room, you're going to spend a lot of time going back and forth to your referencing, to your headphones, to your, to whatever you reference with. And it just ends up wasting time. I know this room like the back of my hand. I've been mixing here for over 10 years. And so that's the hard part. That's the reason why I don't really do any mixing at home, just because, the learning curve of getting used to the room. But, people are doing amazing things with home studios, especially in the production, the recording space. I've recorded a lot of things in the in makeshift studios and had great results.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
It seems to me that so many of the people I respect either started as a DJ or started in church, and those seem to be fertile soil to grow an engineer in or a producer in. Can you take us back to your early DJing days and tell us what you got from those days that you apply every day today?
Yeah, I mean, DJing for me was really the beginning of my ability to understand that I can manipulate music. So I never really got too far in the DJ world. I bought my first set of turntables out of the back of the Source magazine, if anybody's old enough to remember, that. And so, it was really my introduction in being able to I can stop this song. I can kind of drop this song here. I can flip it back this way. And so to me, that was a natural progression into engineering because I grew up, I played a little drums, but I wasn't really a musician. But that gave me an understanding that, you can manipulate the songs that you hear. And it kind of got me set up to understand, rhythm, tempo, all of the things, and then just musicality in another way, aside from being a casual listener. I think that's how it helped me become a good engineer and, just kind of get me set up for my future.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about when I listen to the stuff you do, and then when I look at the artists that you've worked with, there's such a broad array of artists. You know, Mariah Carey, Solange, Skepta, Carly Rae Jepsen, the Mixtape for Hamilton, and so on and so forth. And you have a way of putting the blue thing in all those different kind of feels, and it's evident and it's really cool. Like, it's almost dangerous to listen to your mixes really late at night because, you know, I'm chilling and it's got these cool trippy elements in it and all these other kinds of things. Space is something that you utilize in what you do in a very interesting way in your sort of sonic landscaping. And one, am I getting it right? And two, talk about that.
Well, thank you. First of all, that means a lot coming from you, from all the music you've dealt with and heard. And yeah, I mean, that's what I hope to achieve. And every time I mix is just a kind of expansive sonic landscape, warm synths, really, really good feeling music. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, have the drums hit. And I think that's kind of what has become my signature, and that's kind of why the artists who come to me is because they know that I can understand the musicality and I can preserve these elements that they've worked really hard to. You know, there's times where artists have complained to me where they send a song to mixing and kind of the life gets sucked out of it. And so my goal is always to keep the vibe and keep that warmth and good feeling elements while, you know, making the drums punch a little bit more, making the vocals a little bit more present, and just kind of getting that, but just having that really, really nice feeling, warm feeling audio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use the word producer or production because that's not what we do. But do you do things that could be labeled production in the course of a normal mix?
A little bit. I do my best to kind of stay in my lane as a mixer. There are times where I produce for an artist, and said, like I just did an album for an artist named Love Mansui. He just came out, and the remix to his single just came out with Lil Wayne. And on his album, I took the role of the producer in that there was a skit that he wanted to include, and it was a voicemail. And so you had these great warm soul songs, and then you had this voicemail which didn't have anything kind of behind it. And so from the moment I heard the rough album, I knew I wanted to put something there. And so basically I took elements of the song before it and I slowed them down and sampled them and kind of chopped them up and acted and produced in that sense. And basically made a music bed out of the previous song by slowing down elements and changing it up. And that's why I was credited as a producer on that particular song. And so that's kind of the way I approach production. It's just kind of, I don't call myself a producer in the traditional sense, but just in the course of an album, I'm going to do something that's gonna kind of thread the elements together. And you know, if the credit is warranted as a producer, you know, of course that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. What is your in terms of the stuff that you like? Because oftentimes you can sort of recognize somebody's work in what they listen to. Do you listen to a broader range of things? Are there different things that influenced you? What's your personal musical taste?
Honestly, I listen to a lot of hip hop. I grew up listening to hip hop. I was a huge Outkast fan, which is, you know, is probably the most diverse hip hop group in history. And so that kind of led me to where I'm at. But yeah, now that I'm working with such a broad array of artists, I really just try to find, anytime I'm working on a project, I try to find stuff that's like that to get myself in the right headspace. And that leads me to a lot of great artists. So I'll end up, you know, whatever playlist, let's say I'm working with an artist, like I did an album for Tune Yards, and they're very unique sounding, very left field. And so I had to figure out what they were like, what other artists are like them, and kind of how to approach it. So that's what I try to do. And that's how I end up finding a lot of new artists that I wouldn't have found otherwise, and, you know, kind of adding them to my playlists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did you get from your NYU experience? You said in the video that that you learned as much outside the classroom as you did inside the classroom. I'm guessing that production stuff is easier to learn a little bit outside the classroom as opposed to engineering, because engineering's got a little bit more of a technical side to it. Can you expand on that?
I mean, as an engineer, as you know, Dave, and I'm sure you can attest to this, you learn so much by doing. I mean, you can
everything really.
Exactly. I've watched plenty of you guys' videos and, picked up tips and tricks along the way. But you learn it by doing it and applying those things. So really the main thing I credit NYU with getting me to New York City. I grew up in Seattle, so, it gave me a destination to land in the city and kind of a foundation once I got here. And really the music tech program was awesome because they kind of left us alone in the studio. So we had these great, a big SSLG console and, all of these great compressors and pre's and stuff that we would have never been able to afford. And so, you're 18, 19 years old and they kind of give you open studio time. I used every moment that I could. One of my friends was the guy who checked out the gear. And so he would get us kind of access at night. So we would get locked in the studio from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we would just record and mix and just practice. So that's really what I can really thank NYU for, is just giving me the setting to get started. And then the reason it's just because by the time I got to any actual engineering courses in my coursework, I already was doing it on the side. So I would just take one of the projects that I had done already and turn it in and like, oh yeah, this is a mix I did, even though, I did it 3 weeks ago or, whatever. It was using all the techniques that they were teaching. So I got to be a little ahead, not to sound like, I know it all, but I got to be a little ahead of the curve.
Nice.
Man, that's a story that you hear so often, that same story. Was Bob Power there already?
Was Bob Power?
Yeah.
No. So I started the music tech program. I think Bob is at the Clive Davis School of Recorded Music.
He's at
That's an amazing program as well. I still don't understand why they made it two separate programs, but that I'll leave that to the powers that be. But yeah, I think he teaches over there. So it would have been before that. The Clive Davis School started about a year after I started at NYU. But I will say that the Clive Davis kids, they were a lot more production and writing based. And so I had to go over to the studio a few times to get the Pro Tools rig working for them. So, that was good.
Well, that's actually a good segue into the question I have for you. Are you what's your setup? What's your rig? What's your DAW? Are you a super techie guy? Give us a quick tour of your process, what you utilize, what you work on.
So yeah, honestly, as far as engineers go, I wouldn't call myself a super techie engineer. I do all of my mixing in the box in Pro Tools, as you can see behind me. And I'm helping develop a console actually called the Wraith console, which is a digitally controlled analog console. And so it has pre's, summing. So basically the stages where where analog for me is the most valuable is the input, on the input signal chain, what you're going through, what pre's, what compressors you're coming into Pro Tools. And then when you're summing, I don't say all of my mixes, but a lot of my mixes are run through the Wraith summing unit that we're working on, and so that's a work in progress. But hopefully, I'll have a finished product for you guys very soon.
Nice, congrats, man.
What is the technique that you're the most proud of, or that you think is the most unique, or sometimes I'm sitting there working by myself, and I'm like, man, if they're going to give a Grammy, if they would give a Grammy for this delay throw, I am going to win the Grammy for delay throws. Nobody can touch me right now with these damn delay throws. What's your version of that?
That's a hard one, because the things that artists get the most excited about, like you said, are kind of like those delay throws or those reverb tails. To me, it's always the most beautiful moment is just when you get that perfect EQ on a vocal. And I usually end up using 2 or 3 EQs on a lead vocal. And sometimes I'll throw the pull tech at the end of the chain and just adds that little shimmer. And it's like, that's it. And that's when I get the kind of warm and fuzzies when it comes to the mix. That's when I really feel great about it. So yeah, it's for me, I guess I could take it down to like the signal chain, the lead vocal signal chain. And then, of course, it's always a great moment when you get that kick or that 808 to sit right.
Yeah, vocals and drums. What's your vocal chain for recording vocals?
That really depends on the artist. I try to go as little template as possible when recording. I have a template just for routing and stuff like that because I really believe in customizing it to the artist. We get so used to these days where you throw auto-tune, you throw delay, you throw reverb on somebody's vocals, and they jump in the booth and they sound like they're already in a computer game. And it's like I like to let the artist dictate what they need on their voice, or me to tell them, hey, I think this would sound great with some reverb and stuff to get you in the vibe. So mostly to answer your question, it's just a little bit of reverb, some EQ, maybe some compression. If I'm dealing with the outboard compressor, sometimes I'll just do it on the outboard gear. But really light on the EQ, some reverb, and unless the artist wants it, I won't use delay. So I keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
The experience of doing the mixtape for Hamilton. I mean, the range of artists on there, you know, Common and Black Thought and Aloe Black. I mean, there's so many different folks, Dave East, let alone Lin-Manuel Miranda. Did that present an interesting set of challenges? Was it, you know, what was the goal? What did you have to do to sort of make that work? It also was very successful as well, correct?
Yeah. That was number one. The album was the number one album the week it came out. So that was a blessing to be a part of that. And it was really a really fun experience working on that album. Lynn, I've been a fan of Lynn. as I was telling you guys earlier, I live in Washington Heights in Manhattan. And so I saw In the Heights, his first play. And so me and my wife really eagerly awaiting Hamilton. We saw it. So getting invited, my guy Riggs over Atlantic hit me up and invited me to be a part of the project. And so that was just an amazing call to get to be able to be a part of that project. And it was interesting because the first mix they sent me was the intro, which is Black Thought rapping, which is, that's, one of my favorite rappers. And so getting those vocals in the email was like, oh, this is awesome. And so I think that was kind of, once I nailed that mix, it was like, all right, let's send him another one. And then the next song was a song with Common on it, which is another one of my top 10. Mm-hmm. And then the last song that I did was Wrote My Way Out with Nas, Dave East, and Lin-Manuel, which is just, that's the icing on the cake, getting the mix, the great Nas, great Nas's vocals. That's like Christmas for me. Yeah. So yeah, and it really just the challenge of that song in particular is just, it was just kind of figuring out a way. Lin is an amazing rapper, amazing writer, but he's so used to being on stage. And Nas has 20 plus years of being in the booth, rapping in the studio into a mic. And so naturally Nas had this vocal presence that was just, it was so easy to get him in the pocket mixing wise. And then getting Lin to match up with Nas, not to take away from him because he's an amazing rapper, but, on the track, matching up with Nas is something that few people can do. So it's just, I wanted to get creative. His verse was a lot more, it was a lot more story-based and had a lot more unique characteristics to his voice when Lin rapped. And so I did a lot of cool drops that really accentuated some of the story he told and really gave him a platform to really finish the song off strong. And so I was really proud of how that came out. And, it was a pleasure working with Lin. He's such a cool guy.
Congrats, man. Great work.
Going back to Reverb and talking about vocals, it is a great feeling when you pull up that vocal and it's one of your heroes, and you and it just kind of makes all the stuff you went through for the last 15 years worth it. I get this question a lot, so I'm going to hand it off to you, and then maybe I can save a little time in my life. I get asked a lot, why do you choose the reverbs that you choose, and when would you choose different reverbs? And we all have a little slightly different technique, but those of us have been doing this a while, like you and I. We have a process for choosing reverbs. And can you share yours with us?
So yeah, I mean, again, I try to keep it simple. I go with what works. So my main go-to reverb that I kind of always usually start with, to try out is the EMT 140 by Universal Audio, the plugin. And that gets the job done for my main plate reverb. I'm usually using a plate and a hall reverb, depending with hip hop, not as much, depending on the type of hip hop. Nowadays, the rules of hip hop and reverb are different than they used to be. But so I start with the EMT 140, and that usually gets me where I want to go as far as the space that the vocal sits in. And then my next for my hall or my kind of more like throw, like longer tail reverb, I use Valhalla, Vintage Verb. So those are my go-tos, and then I'll basically, if I don't like one of them, is when I start auditioning other reverbs. If one of those is working, I don't really spend a lot of time trying out, what's this new cool reverb I read about? Because when I'm in the mode, I just want to go and go with what sounds good. And so if it sounds good, then I'll go with it. If I audition reverbs, I kind of do it a day where I'm not really mixing, so I can kind of pull up a new reverb and say, okay, do I like this? What are the presets that I like that can kind of get me close, and then I'll tweak it from there. And so I'm real simple with it.
Do you ever compress your reverbs?
Yeah, I do. I've been doing it more lately than I used to. I'll throw a simple RVox on the reverb at the end of the reverb chain. I'll usually EQ pre-reverb, a little bit like a simple EQ, a fab filter or REQ before the reverb, so I can shape it going into the verb, and then I'll throw a RVox, which basically kind of acts as a limiter, and just squash it a little bit, and that allows me to play with kind of the presence of the reverb as opposed to just being happy with how it sits based on the send level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that when I do research on you, and I just got caught till like 2 in the morning listening to all your songs and stuff, and I was like, I better go to bed. I got to talk to him in the morning, which means I went to bed around 5, so that's nothing new there.
Oh, man.
It's rock and roll habits die hard. They really do. But your taste seems to be, is the independent music scene an exciting place for you? It feels like you've got some artist development bones in your background, at least musically, that finding that new artist and having a relationship and helping flesh them out. I know you spoke to that a little bit earlier. Is that part of your DNA?
I think, yeah. I think I always kind of, from when I started, loved the process of putting together an album or a mixtape. Back in the day, it was only like mixtapes. I wasn't really official enough to do a real album yet. But, just the process of weaving skits and, interludes, beginnings of songs, endings of songs, and kind of stuff like that. I always loved that process. And so I kind of take that role as much as I can with an artist. And watching, artists like Solange do that. She's amazing at planning out her albums. And so I, just am there taking notes and watching how she does it. And I think the fact that I've worked with artists of that caliber, then when a new artist comes to me, like I mentioned earlier, Love Mansui, he's a young, amazing soul singer, and he's signed. So the label trusts me to do kind of some of that work. And so I think that's how I'm able to kind of spread my wings on that tip, and just be able to be a little bit more involved in the process of the whole album, as opposed to just being like, oh, mix this song, mix this song, mix this song.
Yeah, I see that more and more, and people always have to make the decision on who to put their artists in whose hands, and you have to have, not only obviously a sonic perspective, but an understanding of the artist and the vision and what's going to get them there. And then there's the trust and the other things that have to come between you and the artist and the camps. And it's a extra set of skill sets. You've also had I think it was the Solange project that you ended up recording in a bunch of different places and having to set up studios in different countries. What was setting up a studio in Ghana like? That had to be an interesting challenge.
Well, honestly, out of all the places we recorded, Ghana was probably the easiest.
Really?
We worked with an artist out there named Kwame, and an amazing rapper named Manifest, who is still out there doing his thing. He was just on Burna Boy's last album, so shout out to Manifest. And they basically had a studio that was ready for us to use. And so, honestly, out of all the places, that was the easiest.
Where was the toughest?
To walk into a dope vibe studio that was in somebody's house. We set up in Airbnbs, houses. The most difficult place that we recorded was it was actually a church that was on a plantation for the I Seat at the Table album, and it was about an hour and a half outside of New Orleans, and it was this beautiful church that during slavery was owned and operated by the slaves, and so this plantation basically kept it preserved, and now it's a a reminder of what people went through in those times. And Solange wanted to record this, so we did some nights there. So getting the acoustics right in this church, although it was a church, it was an empty church. So getting that right with Solange records all her vocals through a Beta 58, and she likes the speakers on. She doesn't really like to wear headphones. And so that just always presents an interesting challenge when we're recording. And so that particular location was the most difficult to get the acoustics right, but it worked. We worked it out.
Wow, that must be incredible. I watched the video of that.
Can you kind of quickly run through Solange's creative process? You always have to have a recorder going. Pink did a lot of the same things when I worked with her. They worked very similar. And I think it'd be a surprise to the audience how she creates. Solange is amazing.
Yeah, she's just incredible to watch. I mean, that's the biggest blessing. I've got to watch her process so many times. And really, it's just she wants, like you said, she wants everything recording. So let's say we're setting up in a new place and we're starting working on a new project. We'll start with a blank session. She usually is going to have a Rhodes in the room. If there's a drummer coming, she'll have a drum set. So everything is set up. A bass guitar live. Everything has to be live. Everything has to be recording and record enabled at all times. So she'll have everything live, and then her mic live, and kind of she'll either invite musicians or people she's doing co-production with. And she'll either start off, give them an idea, like I'm going for this vibe, these type of chords, and she can sing the chords, and then they'll start jamming. Or she'll just let them kind of go free and come in and pick, I like what you're doing here, I like what you're doing there. But all of this is recording. So you end up with this kind of 20 or 30 minute kind of jam. And then after the groove gets set and she's happy with how everything's going, she'll pick up the mic. Like I said, a Beta 58. And that's why we ended up starting to use that for her main vocals. She'll pick up the mic and just basically write. She freestyles everything. So she'll write the song in the moment. And so she'll, freestyle a melody, words. And usually, honestly, we end up keeping a lot of that original demo. Sometimes we end up with 50% of the lyrics from that original demo of her just picking up the mic and going. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we ended up with the Beta 58 as our go-to mic, because so many of the demos from the Seat at the Table ended up being the final lyrics. And we just ended up having to punch in those lyrics that weren't, that were mumbled or that weren't real lyrics that she filled in later. Yeah. And then for When I Get Home, we just started off with that as the process. So it's kind of, we already knew what we were going to do.
Cool.
That's very cool. Is there a difference in, you've recorded in so many places, is there a signature to what happens in New York City versus what happens in Seattle or in the LA or, in all the different things you do? I think people can have good influences regionally from music scenes. And engineers are interesting because you have to kind of be agnostic, but yet you still have style. Is there something, because you went from Seattle, did your school thing and been in New York. Has New York shaped blue? Is the color of blue partially colored by New York City?
Definitely. I mean, I've been here almost exactly as long as I lived in Seattle. So I've lived in New York almost 18 years. I moved to New York when I was 18. Mm-hmm. And so definitely, I mean, part of my DNA is for sure built in New York. Sonically, I just learned everything I know about engineering here. So I can't even speak to how I would have learned had I been on the West Coast, LA or, or Seattle, amazing music history. But I will say that my music taste was, my early music taste was shaped by being in the West Coast. As I said, I was a, hip hop fan. So, I wasn't as new, I love New York music. I love Nas. I love Wu-Tang growing up and stuff like that. But I love so much Southern and West Coast rap music that I think, you had so many funk elements in the old West Coast rap music that I think that kind of crept in and had got me ready to do the kind of warm, vibey songs that I end up working on now. So I would say definitely there's some Seattle still in me, but I would say New York probably has the majority of my credit for my development.
Cool.
What are you doing? What are you doing to address the streaming problems that we have now? Actually, problems is the wrong word, but requirements. I kind of don't really pay that close attention to them. How do you treat it?
Honestly, it's something that I'm really, trying to kind of be on top of in the last, I would say, year or two. And I usually work with Joe Laporta, who's an amazing mastering engineer, and I've kind of been picking his brain even to see. And really, the way I've been responding to the rules is just a little less compression on my master bus overall, a little less limiting, and trying to get my clients used to hearing mixes that are not quite as pushed and loud, because then you're not chasing that loud final mix in the master. And really, dynamics are so key now. You can have so much more dynamic information on the streaming platforms. And so you just kind of being able to lean a little bit more on dynamics, which, benefits the type of music I work on anyway, and not stressing about the overall level of everything. So just, in a nutshell, just a little less compression on the master, on the music bus. If I'm compressing the drums, just a little less overall compression.
Cool.
Here is the question of the moment. Are you a sports fan at all?
I don't like to say yes, because then it gets into a whole conversation. But, I'm a Seahawks fan.
Okay.
We lost the Sonics, a while back. So I kind of fell out of love with the NBA after 1995,
Right. No, it becomes personal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Laker fan, and right when we're about to win, we get hit with a pandemic. So I don't know what that means. But
this was your year, man.
Well, so now we have a little sports segment in our show called Batter's Box. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
All right, so Dave's the pitcher.
That was a little bit confident.
And your job is to knock his block off.
Oh, man.
So, we cheer for the opposition here because it makes for a better show, even though we love our pitcher. So, Dave, you ready for Batter's Box, sir?
I'm ready. I think this is a good time for me to go for it, because he kind of wimped out on the streaming thing. You should just make everything as loud as I was going to cuss. I was going to throw in a word that began with the letter F. All right, here we go. Bass.
LA2A.
Loops.
They don't always have to be on the grid.
Nice.
Great. Reverb.
EMT 140, UAD.
808.
LA2A again.
Summing.
The Wraith summing console. That's the best one I've ever dealt with.
Oh, I like that.
Vocals.
Pool Tech.
Low end plug-in.
Decapitator.
Wow. Outboard.
Only on the front and the back end of the mix.
Great answer. De-essers.
I'm simple, man. RDSer all the way.
Stereo bus.
Ampex. UAD Ampex.
What's the least expensive item you've ever used on a mix that we might know?
Well, I already mentioned the Shure Beta 58, or I would say the Focusrite Pre's. I recorded all of When I Get Home with this Focusrite Sapphire. $500 set of 8 Pre's.
Well, I do this often, so I'm getting pretty good at it. I concede defeat. Great stuff. Real good job. Real good job.
Yeah, he was
very prepared, Dave. I wasn't playing around. I got to come right for you.
Yeah,
he was very,
this is baseball, so you might make the All-Star game.
Man.
Yeah, no, he got it in. But what was so cool in his New York Derek Jeter style, he got in very quick answers, cut to the chase, cut the runner off, got a great arm, but also put in a little branding move in one of the pitches, which I love. That's awareness. That's court awareness. That's field awareness.
Holla at me.
Oh, all good stuff. Man, listen, we've been a fan. When our team, the mighty Talisha and Tyler team, said we had a shot at you, Dave was very excited about it, as was I. Please keep pushing the envelope musically. I think not only is it good for music in general, it's good for folks coming up to see that you can push that boundary, push the envelope, push the breadth of artists that you work with, and do it simply and in ways that are instinctive and, not overly complicated. I think that is absolutely a blessing. So please know we're big fans of Pensado's Place of Blue.
Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot coming from you guys, for real.
And vice versa. Dave, why don't you take us home today?
Okay, I'm going to do something a tiny bit different. And if we had 2 hours to do the interview, I'd probably ask this question early. Blue said that, and I thought this might be important to some of our clients, that when you intern or when you shadow someone, be prepared to go get them coffee. Be prepared to make their life easy. Be prepared to have things like, say, maybe they ordered some M&Ms. Make sure that you have M&Ms for them the next day when they come in, and show that you're giving something back to receive something you get from them. And we kind of hinted at it earlier in the show about engineering, and we all as engineers, we really like to have someone that interns or spends time with us, because it allows us to share some of the information that we've learned, and it's always important. Guys like Blue and at that level always enjoy sharing. But in order to get access to that sharing, you have to give something back, and you have to kind of subvert your ego and your arrogance and be helpful. And I think that being around a lot of interns at the studio I work at, I see that all the time. The ones that help out and everything, I invite them in the room, and I don't try to do it on purpose or anything. But anyway, check it out, and maybe one day you'll be sitting in the same chair that Blue is sitting in. And guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.